The arena was full, and every seat shook from the loud alien voices. Tonight was a special night. Tonight, the galaxy's strongest warrior, General Varkon the Unbroken, was going to fight again. Varkon was a monster in armor, 3 meters tall, thick bone plates on his shoulders, a face that looked carved from stone. He had won every battle, every war, every duel. His enemies feared him. His fans worshipped him. Everyone said the same thing. No one can touch him, not a single hit. In all his years of fighting, not one opponent had ever landed even one strike. And tonight, he was facing a human. A small, thin human named Elias Reed. When Elias walked into the arena, the crowd laughed instantly. He looked normal. No armor, no weapons, just a plain shirt and steady eyes. Many aliens joked that he would faint before the fight even began. The host shouted loudly, "Tonight's rule is simple. If the human lands one hit, he wins. But of course he will not." The arena laughed again. Varkon stepped forward, the ground shaking under his heavy boots. He stared down at Elias like a predator looking at prey. "Human," Varkon growled, "bow before me and I will break only one of your arms." Elias looked up and shrugged. "No thanks." The crowd booed the human for not showing fear. The countdown began. 3. Elias rolled his shoulders slowly. 2. Varkon raised his fists, his armor clattering like metal thunder. 1. Elias moved. Not fast like lightning. Not with power. Just smoothly. He stepped forward and... slap! His hand hit Varkon's cheek with a soft sound. The entire arena went silent. Varkon blinked, confused. Did you just hit me?" Elias smiled calmly. 1. Before Varkon even processed the first hit, Elias moved again. A light tap on the wrist, a sharp touch on the elbow, a palm press on the chest, a flick under the jaw. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 hits, all before the fight officially started. Varkon stumbled back, the crowd gasped. The Unbroken, shaken, impossible. Machines around the arena beeped loudly. They detected abnormal readings from Varkon's body. His armor showed tiny cracks. His bones had microfractures. His breathing changed. From 5 soft hits, the greatest warrior in the galaxy, damaged by a human before the match even began. Varkon glared at Elias with wide, shaking eyes. "What are you?" Elias didn't answer the question. He only gave that same small smile. "I'm just human." But the way he said it made the crowd uneasy. His calmness felt dangerous. His smile felt like a warning. But everyone in the arena knew something. The real fight had already started, and Varkon was no longer the strongest one in the room. A human, a simple human, had broken the legend before the first punch was thrown. This night would change everything. Whispers spread everywhere. "He touched the Unbroken. He landed 5 hits before the match." "What kind of human is that?" Varkon lifted his fists again, but this time his hands trembled. The fear in his eyes was real. And Elias? He didn't even raise his hands. He just stood still, relaxed, waiting. The fight signal finally buzzed. Now the match had officially begun. The arena lights flickered as the fight officially began. But no one cheered now. No one laughed. Every alien in the stadium sat frozen, staring at the small human who had done the impossible. General Varkon, the Unbroken, the undefeated champion of 100 world, had been touched 5 times. Varkon's jaw tightened. Rage burned inside him, mixing with something he had never felt in a fight before: fear. He stepped forward with a roar, shaking the ground. "Human, you dare mock me? I will crush you." Elias didn't react. He simply shifted his weight from one foot to the other, calm like he was waiting in a grocery line. Varkon charged. The floor cracked under his steps. His armor clanged like thunder. His fists moved fast enough to break metal. The crowd leaned forward. This was it. This was the moment the human was supposed to be smashed into the sand. But Elias wasn't there. He moved sideways with a small step, almost lazy. Varkon's punch hit empty air and smashed into the arena wall, sending dust and sparks flying. The crowd gasped. Varkon turned furious. Elias looked at him with the same silent expression. "You missed," Elias said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't mocking. It was just a fact. And somehow that simple sentence cut deeper than any weapon. Varkon attacked again, faster, harder. Punch. Kick, swing, crush. But Elias wasn't fighting back. He was simply not getting hit. He leaned left. He stepped right. He bent down slightly. And every attack passed by him like wind. He's reading him, someone in the crowd whispered. No, he's predicting him, another said. Varkon roared and swung his fist downward. Elias only took a half step forward, and the massive blow dug a hole into the ground behind him. Sand exploded into the air. Elias spoke again. Your balance is off. Varkon froze. What? Elias pointed calmly. Your left knee. It shakes when you move too fast. The arena fell silent. How did a human see that? Even Varkon himself had never noticed that detail. Elias continued softly, almost like a doctor explaining a simple problem. And your armor plates, the cracks are spreading. Varkon looked down sharply. He hadn't felt it, but the sensors were right. The cracks from earlier hits were widening. Those 5 hits. They weren't simple taps. They were something else. Varkon took a step back, breathing heavily. Elias stepped forward. The entire arena tensed. For the first time, the human was moving toward the champion. Varkon raised his guard, but Elias didn't strike. He walked up slowly until he was just a meter away. He looked straight into Varkon's eyes. Do you know why humans survive? Elias asked. Varkon growled. Because you hide behind technology and numbers. Elias shook his head. No, we survive because we adapt and we learn. His voice stayed soft, but it carried power through the entire stadium. You spent your life believing no one could touch you, Elias continued. So you never learned to defend against someone who could. Varkon's heart pounded. No enemy had ever talked to him like this. No enemy had ever made him step back. Elias raised his hand. Varkon flinched, but the human didn't hit him. He simply tapped the front of Varkon's armor with one finger. A tiny sound. Tick. Then, crack. A spiderweb fracture spread across Varkon's chest plate. Gasps exploded through the arena. Varkon looked down at the widening crack in horror. That small touch was enough to break the strongest part of his armor. Elias whispered only 2 quiet words. 6 hits. The sound of the armor cracking echoed around the arena like a gunshot. Even the giant hollow screen shook as the fracture spread across Varkon's chest plate. The strongest armor in the galaxy, broken by a finger tap. The crowd didn't scream this time. They didn't cheer. They didn't even breathe. They watched in pure shock. Varkon touched the crack with trembling fingers. It felt unreal. His armor had survived plasma cannons, meteor shrapnel, and blades from 5 different species. But now, a human's finger had nearly shattered it. What are you doing to me? Varkon whispered, his voice lower than ever before. Elias tilted his head slightly. Nothing special. That calm answer made Varkon's stomach twist, because the way Elias said it made it clear this wasn't even his full ability. Varkon took a step back, his giant boots dragging through the sand. He had fought monsters, machines, warlords, but never something like this. This human didn't look strong. His shoulders were relaxed, his breathing steady, his stance loose. But every move he made felt precise, perfect, deadly. The crowd could feel something changing, something powerful waking inside the human. Varkon tried to regain control. Enough, I will not be humiliated by a small creature from a backwater planet. He re-entered his battle stance, legs spread, arms raised, his muscles bulged, his fangs bared. His roar rattled the metal beams above. Elias didn't take a stance. He didn't look scared. He simply adjusted the sleeve of his shirt. The fight resumed. Varkon charged again, swinging a punch that could crush a steel wall. Elias leaned back by 1 inch. The fist brushed past his nose and smashed into the sand behind him, sending a shockwave across the arena. Elias spoke quietly through the dust. You always lead with your right hand. Varkon's eyes widened. How do you? And you always twist your foot before you strike, Elias added. I watched you do it during your last 3 matches. He stepped aside as another punch missed him. I study my enemies. The crowd began whispering wildly. He studied the general. He watched his patterns. Humans can track that? Varkon's attacks grew even wilder. He punched, kicked, swung his massive weight around. But Elias avoided everything with small steps, tiny turns, and simple movements. No wasted energy. No panic. Just skill. Finally, Varkon tried something new. He stopped attacking and instead leaped backward, creating distance. He opened his palm and activated a hidden shockwave emitter on his wrist. For the first time in his life, General Varkon felt weak. His right arm hung useless at his side, nerves shut down from a single human tap. His armor was cracked. His breath was shaking. The arena lights felt too bright. The crowd felt too close. He had gone from legend to prey, and Elias, the human, stood calmly in front of him, hands lowered, chest rising and falling in slow, steady breaths. He didn't look tired. He didn't look stressed. He didn't even look like he was in a fight. It made Varkon's skin crawl. "You're not fighting me," Varkon growled. "You're playing with me." Elias shook his head. "I'm showing you the truth." The word stung Varkon worse than any weapon. He charged again despite the dead arm, using only his left. His feet smashed into the ground. He swung wildly, but Elias slipped past each blow like he already knew where they would land. Elias stepped left. Varkon's punch missed. Elias stepped right. Varkon's kick hit nothing. Elias ducked. Varkon's claws tore through the air above him. "How do you keep moving like that?" Varkon shouted. Elias replied softly. "Because I practiced for years." Varkon blinked. "Years? For a fight like this? Why?" The crowd watched, terrified and fascinated. Some aliens recorded, some prayed, others simply stared, unable to understand how a human could overpower the unbeatable general. Varkon swung his knee upward in a surprise attack. Elias caught it with one hand. One hand. The general froze in shock. "You fight with power," Elias said, pushing the massive leg aside like it weighed nothing. But no control. With a simple touch, Elias tapped the side of Varkon's knee. A sharp crack echoed. Varkon howled in pain as his leg buckled and forced him to kneel. The arena trembled with gasps. The unstoppable champion was now kneeling before a human. But Elias didn't strike again. He stepped back, giving Varkon room almost respectfully. This made Varkon even angrier. "You think I'm weak?" Varkon roared. Elias shook his head. "No. I think you never learned what real weakness feels like." The general gritted his teeth. Sweat dripped down his face. He slammed his fist into the ground and forced himself back to his feet using sheer strength. He roared again, louder than ever, the sound shaking sand into the air. "You dare lecture me? I conquered worlds, I broke armies, I was feared across the stars." Elias lifted his eyes slowly. "And yet, you can't land one clean hit on a human." The truth hit harder than any punch. Varkon screamed in fury and rushed forward the fastest he had ever moved. He blurred across the sand, claws extended. For a small moment, the crowd thought this might actually be the end for Elias. But the human simply lowered his stance and moved half a step to the side. Varkon flew past him. Elias extended one hand. Just one fingertip. He tapped the center of Varkon's spine. A tiny sound echoed. Tick. Varkon collapsed face first into the sand. His whole body went stiff, then numb. He tried to stand, but his legs refused to move. His muscles twitched without control. Elias walked around him slowly. "That was hit number 7, he said softly. Varkon struggled to speak. "How? No human can do this. No human should move like this. What are you truly?" Elias crouched down beside him, his voice calm and quiet. "Someone who trained every day for 20 years. Someone who studied every species you conquered. Someone who learned every weakness you ignored." Varkon's eyes widened. "You didn't come here to fight," he whispered. "You came here for justice." Elias finally looked up at the crowd. "No," he said. "I came here to end a myth." The arena was silent. No shouts. No cheers. Only the sound of Varkon's heavy breathing as he lay in the sand, his body half paralyzed from Elias's precise touches. Elias stood above him, quiet as ever, calm, controlled. Too calm for a man who had just defeated the strongest warrior in the galaxy. Varkon lifted his head slightly, fighting the numbness spreading through his limbs. "You trained for me?" Varkon asked, voice trembling. Elias took a slow breath. "No, I trained because of what you did." Varkon tried to push himself up, but his arms shook. His body refused to obey. Still, he managed to lift himself to one knee. "What did I do?" he growled, confused. Elias finally looked down at him with eyes that held something deeper. Pain. "Do you remember a planet called Remora 9? Elias asked. Varkon blinked. Remora 9? He remembered it, a small colony. Weak, unimportant. He had destroyed it easily. "I conquered many worlds," Varkon said. "What of it?" Elias stared at him coldly. "My brother lived there." The crowd gasped. Varkon's eyes widened. Your brother? He was a doctor, Elias continued softly. He saved people. He helped your wounded soldiers even when they came as enemies. Varkon's memory flickered. Yes, there had been a human doctor, a young man, brave, foolish, and in the way. My army gave him a chance to surrender, Varkon growled. Elias shook his head. No. You executed him because he refused to abandon his patients. The word struck Varkon like a spear. The memory was clear now. The doctor standing between soldiers and civilians, refusing to move. Varkon exhaled slowly. It was war. Elias's eyes darkened. That's why I trained. He stepped closer, and even the air around him seemed to tighten. I wanted to understand why monsters like you destroy everything. I wanted to know how to stop people who believe they can't be touched. He pointed at the cracked armor on Varkon's chest. People like you. Varkon clenched his teeth. He wanted to stand, to fight, to win back the respect of the galaxy watching him. His pride burned inside him like fire. You trained 20 years for revenge? Varkon snarled. Elias shook his head quickly. No, I trained 20 years so no one else loses a brother. A long silence followed. Then Varkon laughed, a low, broken laugh. You think you are powerful now? You think you can stop war by beating one soldier? Elias didn't react. Varkon's voice rose, filled with anger. Then let me show you the real power that made me champion. His muscles swelled, his bones cracked outward, and his armor plates expanded. A hidden genetic augmentation activated, something Varkon had never used in public. The crowd screamed. Varkon grew larger, stronger, faster. His body glowed with raw force. He rose from the ground like a beast reborn. This is my true form, human, he roared, shaking the arena. Let's see you touch me now. Dust flew everywhere as Varkon charged like a meteor. But Elias didn't move. Not until the last second. Then, he took one silent step forward. His fist moved for the first time in the entire fight. One punch. A simple human punch. It struck Varkon exactly in the center of his chest armor, right where the cracks had spread earlier. The armor shattered like glass. Varkon's massive body flew backward, crashing into the wall with a thunderous boom. The arena shook. Dust clouds filled the air. The screens flickered. The crowd stared, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Elias lowered his hand and whispered, 8 hits. Varkon slumped forward, defeated, truly defeated. The unbroken, broken at last. The wall behind Varkon cracked from the force of his impact. His huge body slid down slowly, leaving deep scratches on the metal surface. When he finally hit the ground, the arena fell into complete silence. Elias stood in the middle of the sand, breathing calmly. His knuckles relaxed. His stance lowered. He looked like the fight had cost him nothing. But the crowd knew what they had seen. The legendary Unbroken had fallen from a single human punch. Some aliens dropped their drinks. Others covered their mouths. A few even fainted. The galaxy's greatest champion, defeated. Varkon groaned, trying to move. His enlarged muscles twitched uselessly. His vision blurred. He tried to stand, but his knees buckled and he fell again. He could not rise. Not anymore. Elias walked toward him, slow and steady, leaving light footprints in the sand. Every step echoed through the silent arena. When he reached Varkon, he stopped only a few feet away. Varkon lifted his head, pupils shaking. How can a human be this strong? Elias didn't answer immediately. He let the fear settle. He let the truth sink deep into the hearts of every alien watching. Then he spoke softly. You asked what I am, Elias said. I'm human, that's all. Varkon shook his head. Humans are weak, fragile, soft. Elias knelt so they were eye level. You mistake kindness for weakness, he said. You mistake peace for fear. You mistake patience for defeat. He placed one hand lightly against his own chest. Humans break, he said softly, but we rebuild. Humans fall, but we rise again. Humans suffer, but we learn. And humans never stop improving. The words hit deeper than any strike he had thrown. Varkon swallowed hard. In that moment, he finally understood. Humans were dangerous not because they were strong, but because they learned how to beat anything stronger than them. The stadium screens zoomed in on Elias's face, his calm eyes, his steady voice, his simple truth. The entire galaxy heard him. Elias stood up again, looking at the crowd. Thousands of alien eyes stared at him in fear and respect. You call him the Unbroken, Elias said. But nothing in this universe stays unbroken forever. He turned slightly, pointing at the shattered armor scattered across the sand. Not legends, not champions, not myths. He stepped back and looked at Varkon with something unexpected. Pity. You lived your whole life believing you were untouchable, but strength without humility always collapses. Varkon lowered his head. He didn't argue. He couldn't. He had finally met someone he couldn't overpower, couldn't intimidate, and couldn't understand. And for the first time ever, Varkon bowed. The crowd gasped. The giant warrior lowered his head fully to the human who defeated him. Elias didn't smile. He didn't raise his hands in victory. He simply nodded. "Get up," Elias said softly. "This fight is over." Medical bots rushed in. Drones hovered overhead. The announcer's voice trembled through the speakers. "Winner, Elias Reed of Earth." The stadium erupted, not in cheers, but in a stunned, powerful silence. Because something bigger had happened that night. A new legend was born. A human had proven the galaxy wrong. A human had beaten the unbeatable. A human had shown what humanity truly was. And every alien watching felt the same thing. If one human could do this, what could an entire species do? Elias walked toward the exit, calm as ever. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. His message was now carved into the galaxy. Never underestimate a human.